As the world wakes up in the morning and the sun smiles with its warmth, the birds spread their wings as they soar the vast blue skies. The flowers give off their scents, fragrance fills the air. Oh, this earth is a paradise, so delightful to behold. How can we be so unkind to this planet where we live? The world wakes up in the morning and the sun smiles with its warmth. The birds spread their wings as they soar the vast blue skies. The flowers give off their scents, fragrance fills the air. Oh, this earth is a paradise, so delightful to behold. How can we be so unkind to this planet where we live?
Good afternoon to all you viewers that are on already. You know, you just listened to the song that says, "This earth is a paradise. The sun smile when it's war, it's love, I think it is." But I'm going to introduce the guest that I have, and I'm going to do something very different today. Extremely different. I try to make sure that every time I come on this program that it's a little different than the time before, you know. So I'm going to want you to listen very carefully. Some of you might say, "What are you doing this for?" And some might say, "Hey, I know why you're doing it." Okay, here it goes. Vandaag spreken we een beetje Nederlands. We zijn opnieuw live op Interact Livestream en we zijn erg blij om onze kijkers weer een bijzonder interessant programma te kunnen aanbieden. Onze gast van vandaag is iemand die veel waardevolle informatie zal delen over de bescherming van onze natuur. Deze persoon is de president van de Natuurbeschermingsstichting en is goed bekend hier op het eiland Sint Maarten. Zijn naam is de populaire Binkie van S. En nu schakelen we over naar het Engels. I don't know if you guys know why I did that. I want to know if you guys know why I spoke some Dutch. What, you thought I couldn't speak Dutch? I'm from St. Martin. That's the reason why I speak Dutch. So just give me an opportunity to speak the language that I learned from the time I was a kid. So it's time to begin. Good afternoon. Binkie, how you doing?
Hi Jeffrey, good afternoon. I'm fine, thank you. I would first like to say the song you started with. I loved it. It's so fitting for what I do about the nature and how beautiful it is. Yes.
Yeah, but the nature is beautiful. It's beautiful. You know, we're here at Pasangraham, Binkie, and I'm looking around and I'm looking at nature, the trees, the sea, the beach, etc. You know, and it looks so beautiful. You know, but we're going to be talking about some of those things today. So get ready to be able to answer some very important questions that we have for you. And I know that you have the answers for them. And if not, you're going to come back the next time and answer them. Today also going to be, I know it's going to be a little controversial. And a lot of people are going to be very emotional because I've been speaking to some people on WhatsApp and they've been telling me so much different things. And even myself was asking I was asking myself, hey, how are those things happening here on our island? You know, so I'm gonna go into a little personal stuff first. Then we're gonna get into the whole nature situation.
Yeah.
How long have you been here in St. Martin?
That's, if my calculation is not wrong, is 39 years now this year.
39.
39.
That's a long time.
Time flies.
No, that's a long time.
And I'm, St. Martin adopted me. I had late in the first year here, I had the peculiar occurrence that one morning I woke up and I realized that for the first time in my life I was at home.
Whoa. So you see St. Martin as your home?
Yeah, St. Martin is my home. I was born in the Netherlands, I come from the Netherlands. In between I lived in France for a short stretch, but St. Martin is my home. And it was very quickly in the beginning already my home.
Interesting. And your parents, where your parents are from?
My parents are both Dutch, from a small town called Bergen op Zoom.
Okay.
In the south of the country, close
So
to
you were born there as well?
I born there as well, yeah. And I had a great life there, a great youth. I grew up there. Nothing to...
And how much siblings you have?
I got 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Okay. I want to go into a little bit of your schooling. Where did you go to school? What school did you do? Sorry.
In the same town there, Bergen op Zoom, I went to high school, middelbare school. Then after I did a little bit of hogere technische school. I'm not sure what the English term is for that one. But I didn't finish it. I found out that studying was not my thing. I'm more practically engaged.
Okay.
So the first job, real job, and skill of that, I became a stone mason, but carving stone, restoration of medieval buildings.
Okay. And any kids?
Sorry?
Any children?
And I got 1 son who was born here.
Born in St. Martin?
Right down there by St. Rose. Yeah, he was one of the last actually to be born in St. Rose.
Okay. And now we're going to get into action. And the action, you know, is all about nature. Yeah. So I need you to listen very carefully. First, I'm going to ask you, what is the objective of the Nature Foundation?
With the Nature Foundation, mostly the strict objective is management of nature. We always want to stress that we are not geez, how you call it? The proper word won't come here now, of course.
It will come after.
Yeah, it will come. But we are there for management. We have there is a marine park was established a way back, so we manage that. We do management projects for the government also, various things that varies by the years. We try as much as possible to maintain the nature that we have. Where needed, we push the government a little bit. For example, what we think is a really big issue on the island is that we don't have a protected land area. We don't have a nature park. We only have the marine park, but nothing on land. And the development, I mean, you only got to look around how much development there is and still ongoing on the island. Nature is square meter by square meter. We're losing it. And we have to protect some for a whole bunch of reasons.
There's a development going on in Bel Air. Any take on that? Do you think that it should be there or it should not be project there in Bel Air?
So, yeah, it's a very prickly issue always with Nature Foundation. We are not against development, of course not.
Okay.
Development, there should be people need means to exist. But development has to go hand in hand with respect for nature. And like now, for example, what's going on there by the Little Bay Pond? It's a variety of things that's not completely right. Again, another beach is completely ripped away from the people of St. Martin. I don't think there's much left now in beach where we can freely go. The pond is going to be damaged, all the mangrove around. That's a lot of important nature that's going to be ripped away from us again. And if I say development is necessary and needed for the island, there's one thing is always overlooked, because again, it's most of the time it's development for the very rich, for foreigners. We build fancy condos that are 700, 800,000, $1 million. It's way out of range of the normal local people, and there's still no plans for social housing. So some development, there's money that disappears, nobody profits from that. There is maybe a handful of jobs resulting during the construction, and that's it. Afterwards, only a few gardeners will work there.
But anytime there's a permit that has to be approved by government,
Yeah.
would they come to the Nature Foundation and say, what do you think about this particular permit?
Yes. But also here, we as Nature Foundation, we have an advisory function to the government, and strictly that. It's not a binding advice or anything, so government can
Override it.
In the past, actually, we've been abused in that sense, that if there was development that government themselves did not want to see, we kind of got a hint from, hey, I don't know what you guys think, but, and then they would say, hey, listen, the Nature Foundation says, so it cannot happen. But if our advice is a problem, it gets shoved in the bottom drawer, and that's the end of it. There is no... another big problem is there's still no nature ordinance on the islands. There's nothing in the law to really protect nature. I see from your reaction that's a surprise.
There are no nature laws on the island?
There is no practical nature laws.
Why is that the case? Because you have a Nature Foundation, the Nature Foundation.
Yeah.
Why is it that you don't push government to make sure that laws be placed on the books for nature?
We do what we can, but apparently the legal process by government gets mired in.
And how long have you been working on trying to get that those?
As Nature Foundation, we've been trying to get that done for the last 20 years already. And we spent money on it that we got from grants from outside the island. We've paid lawyers to help us with it, to make draft laws. But getting them passed, because now I'm putting myself maybe on thin ice here.
It's okay. You're here with me. It's okay.
Nature Foundation is quite often, especially on the side of developers, seen as the enemy. That we always trying to stop development and all. It's, like I said, it's not true. We're not anti-development. We are pro-nature, which is something completely different. But
so you're not anti-development, but you're pro-nature.
We're pro-nature.
So which means that you have to work together.
Exactly. And there still is room for both of it. We don't have to cover everything in concrete to be developed.
I want to go into a little bit about overdevelopment in areas like Fort William. It has increased, and we have residents dumping septic waste, which worsens the pollution. What do you think about that? You know, do you go around checking those type of
yes, we do.
situations?
We do. Yeah, and it's bad. It's bad all over.
If you go around checking them and they're not up to your expectation, what then is the case?
Oh, but we have no authority there. We can only report to VROMI if we see stuff that's really out of, completely out of whack.
You just report and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's up to VROMI whether they're going to
we
handle it, yes or no.
And no, and all of that, like I said, because there's no real nature laws, we have no authority except for the marine park. On land we can advise, we can alert people to bad situations in nature, but we cannot tell no to nobody to do whatever they're doing. We have no police functions, we have no controller function. We do it because we love doing it, and we hope to help out and slowly but surely steer things into a better direction. Because nature is, like I said in the beginning, nature is so important for our own survival in so many aspects. The cleaning function of nature, of the mangroves, of the trees, giving us oxygen. Lately, a report came out again about the terrible increase actually in mental health issues, especially among young people.
But what has to do with nature?
Nature is, and this is proven by research all over the world, nature has a very healing function. And I'm not saying this is the healing thing, but nature is very, very beneficial for everybody, and especially when you have
mental health.
There is a book has been written years ago by an Englishman, and the title of the book is actually Bird Therapy. And this is somebody who describes his struggle with depression, serious depression, and how just watching birds eventually got him out of that depression. Not medication, not psychiatrists, bird watching. And it's not even a depressing book to read, because the way he writes about it is actually quite uplifting. So that's one of the
First
things
time
why
I ever heard about that. I'm going. So you're saying that you go around checking the nature to see what people are doing, whether it's hotel, etc. And then you give an advice to government.
Yeah.
Pertaining to your findings.
Yeah.
But then they're the one that decides.
They decide,
they
and they are the ones authorized.
But do they have any kind of, let's say, fines to give to people if something is wrong that is not supposed to be? Or they don't have any fines in place?
Not yet, but
not yet.
They're working on that though. There is
working when?
They're setting up a system for fines now for those kind of infractions, and that should be either this year or next year that is finished.
You just told me that you have 20 years working with government, so when are they going to set up this? Well, what you say, infraction?
One of the things, of course, Jeffrey, is that in the past 12 years, we had 10 governments.
Yeah, exactly. But I understand that. When are they going to realize that nature is a very important thing for this country? I've gotten a lot of people that talk about even plastic sacks. I think plastic sacks or plastic bags were, a law was made about plastic bags, but people are still using them. So my point is, where is the protection? Where is the people that are looking into these things and making sure that they don't happen? Is it the Nature Foundation? Or is it some other company that is doing it? Because these things still happen. I mean, because that is a law. You can't use
the law was
black plastic sacks.
The law was passed now, I think, a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. About 2 years ago.
I remember that.
About 2 years ago, the law was finally passed.
I remember that.
But then, surprise, then government said, okay, we passed the law, but now we have to look at how to implement it. And they're still looking at that. There is actually a working group of some very dedicated and very intelligent young St. Martin people who are working on the implementation. And that is set for this year still, finally.
Can I call you Binkie?
Of course.
Binkie, listen to me. If you put a law in place, I mean, I used to work government, so I can tell you, if you put a law in place, you have to put, how are you going to implement that law, according to me? You can't be after, so we're going to look into how we're going to implement it, whether it takes a year or 2 years, then you're blaming it on the fact that government has changed so much time, when government is continuity.
Yeah,
you got to continue.
Well, St. Martin, we seem to have a problem with implementing laws in general.
Yeah, but we can't, Binkie, we cannot continue doing business as usual. This has to stop. I have a lot of questions here for you. But these questions are getting kind of like, if I ask these questions, what sense it makes? Because you don't have the power anyhow. I mean, you're a dog without teeth.
Yeah,
You don't have the teeth to bite.
no, we can indicate, we can show what's happening, we can advise, we can say what needs to be done.
That's not enough, Binky. What has to be done is action has to be done to make sure that whatever it is, if it's something that you feel or we feel or the people of Semana feels is important, that we find a solution. Once it is found, then we go into making it the necessary changes. But we can't go talk about the situation, find the solutions, and then we decide, no, we're not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, Binky.
No, but that's the problem of being an NGO. We are not part of government.
Yeah, but you have people behind you. You have St. Martin people behind you. I'm telling you that.
Yeah, I know.
You have St. Martiners behind the NGO and St. Martin. And you know who put those people there? The people put the government there. And they have to reach to a point where they're going to listen to the people of St. Martin.
But I can say people, the present government thinks are looking better for nature.
They are looking
better.
Things are looking better for nature now than before.
It's there is a definitely a different wind is blowing there now.
Okay, so we can say we're going to see some new stuff happening.
I'm quite convinced. Yeah.
You're convinced about it?
Luckily.
Okay.
And that
sounds good.
And that's what keeps us going also. I mean, you got to work like this, and that's not just for Nature Foundation. This island basically runs on foundations. There's hundreds of foundations on this island doing all kinds of things that actually the government should be doing. But I mean, they have limited means also. So this is not meant as criticism towards the government.
I want not cutting you cross, but I want to go into our cruise ships. Sometimes we have 7 cruise ships here, and I talk to a lot of the merchants, and they say it's better to have less cruise ships than to have more cruise ships, because you have a situation where it's crowded. So the people don't buy because they go into the store. Too much people is in the store and they come back out. What is your take on that?
I think the same thing. The massive influx that we see now also, because the ships have gotten bigger also over the years. I remember before 2000, the cruise ship with 1,500 people was considered a big ship. That's a small one these days. And these huge amounts of people coming on shore are a tremendous strain on our infrastructure. Traffic boils down to a complete standstill. Imagine if you got 20,000 people extra running on the island on one day on a heavy cruise ship day. They all got to go to the toilet at least once during that day. That's the same amount as another half of our population doing that. They all are going to drink some soda, some water. All those extra cans and the bottles are going to end up on our landfill. It's a tremendous strain. And I'm not an economist or anything, but I seriously doubt that it really benefits our island in a big financial way. These cruises are paid up front in the United States. People spend, those ships are set up, in my vision, in such a way nowadays. They got the shops on the ships also. They got the casinos on the ships also. People do it.
So some people, some of them don't really have to come off the ship.
A lot.
They can stay in the ship and
more and more don't even come off, correct? And you see a tendency that these ships are buying their own private islands in the Bahamas and all. That benefits nobody anymore.
Mm-hmm. A question.
By the way,
sorry.
I wanted. This is not per se a Nature Foundation viewpoint. This is my personal viewpoint.
Of course, I invited you, not Nature Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mangroves. I want to talk a little bit about mangroves. When you go to where I live on the Bush Road, there's a lot of mangroves there.
All along the fresh pond. Yeah.
Along the fresh pond. Then you go to Fort William. There's a lot of mangroves there and stuff like that. And people are saying, hey, why not, trim those mangroves so that you can see the other side of the fresh pond.
Yeah.
Because when you pass it, you're not seeing nothing anymore like how we used to see before. So,
Yeah,
so my question to you, is that something that you're concerned about or something that you would like to see happen, or you have no problem with it?
The mangroves. Actually, we're right in the middle now of a whole program of educating the people more about mangroves. There's lots of myths about mangroves that are not completely true. Mangroves are completely natural to Sint Maarten since way before Columbus time, actually.
But is mangrove a good thing or a bad?
Mangrove is a really, really good thing. It's one of the golden plants in nature.
But what it does?
Mangrove is a fantastic cleaner of our ponds are very polluted. Mangroves clean that to a big part. They are like natural filters. Mangroves are a tremendous habitat for all kinds of life, for birds, for insects. And mind you, insects, we never talk about insects, but you know how important insects are for us. And fishes indeed, fishes breed in the roots of the mangrove, the crabs, everything. Mangroves, now by a pond less, but mangrove is you've seen it in French Quarter with Irma. If that whole mangrove forest hadn't been there by coconut grove, French Quarter would have had a much harder hit from the ocean. It's just that whole mangrove forest that caught it up. It's coastal protection.
Okay.
So mangrove is one of the, it's really on top of the list of important plants in the world.
Okay.
And then in terms of, the trimming is a bit of a controversial thing. Me personally, I'm a proponent also of nature tourism, because nature tourism is a lot more sustainable tourism than lots of other forms. For that, and then I agree with you and lots of other people, you need some views also. But since mangrove is so important, what we should create, is my personal feeling, is indeed here and there some viewing spots through the mangrove. But don't trim it down like tremendously. Just create some spots where we, with Nature Foundation, 2 years ago we did the bird viewing deck in the salt pond.
Oh yeah.
Spots like that, and then you.
But people still go there. And
a lot. And
see
all the time.
The birds, etc.
Yeah, and I see we with Nature Foundation ourselves.
And that's on Seagulls Gut Road.
No, on the Circuit Garden Road, just by the roundabout there, by the Freedom Fighter roundabout.
Yeah, Freedom Fighter.
Then that's right there is the deck. We take school children there also.
If it's hot, how you? Because there's no dock, or there's no roof on top there.
Not on the deck, no. Better, and that's better also. And over that pond there's always a bit of a breeze, and you're not going to spend 2 hours there. And like when we take school children there, we got very shortly after we put up the deck, we got donated a bus stop. There was extra from when it was donated that, and they put it up there for us, and we put it in such a way that the school children can sit there in the shade with the breeze while we explain them about nature, and then we take them out on the deck and they get binoculars.
Now, but I'm going to go back to what I just said.
Yeah.
What about roofing? Because it's very hot in that area. If you're looking at
roofing,
you're looking at the pond area.
Roofing attracts other problems to spots like that. So we've got lots of homeless people that need a roof.
Just a roof?
Yeah.
Those homeless people going to go under that?
There's by Little Bay Pond, and there's by the Fresh Pond actually in Zegersgut. There has been also, in the past there were observation huts.
Yeah, I remember that.
The ones by Zegersgut were burned down by...
In the days of Commissioner, the late Roy Marlin.
Yeah. The two by Zegersgut were burned down by people occupying them. And the one by Little Bay Pond was occupied for over a year. And we tried the gentle way. With social affairs and everything, we found alternative housing for the person in question. Did not want to leave. Eventually, we had no choice but to get the police involved. We had to make some adaptations to that hut, keep a door out and everything. So, and if you look worldwide at bird observation spots, and each user is just a blind. Keep it open for the rest.
Because that is not your forte. That's not something that you're responsible for. You're responsible for nature, not for housing.
No, but yeah, actually, I love that. Still, that you make that connection. One of the things that I personally struggle with in my fight for nature conservation is we have a tremendous poverty problem on the island, and sometimes I don't know how to tell people to stop polluting when they don't even know when they have a meal at the end of the day, and that's something I struggle hard with. And so, as long as we don't manage to deal with the poverty on the island, all the other problems that we have will linger, will not go away. Now, as I mentioned earlier, everybody got to do where your talent lies. My talent is not in those kind of social issues. My talent is in nature. That's what I know something. But poverty is an underlying factor in all our problems, and that is the thing that really needs to be solved. And I've been told by people from the Rekenkamer, the chamber.
I know the Rekenkamer.
Yeah, that it shouldn't be necessary in St. Martin, such severe poverty. That money can be divided differently here. But having said,
I know you're not government.
No.
But how does, let's say, government see the poverty situation in the island?
Yeah.
Do they see it as something that is extremely necessary to tackle or to address, or they're not just they're just leaving it go and they have no concern about that?
I don't really know. I can only look at that from an outsider standpoint. I don't see a real urge to solve it. The minimum wage is still an unlivable wage, and then people
the lowest in the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Yeah. And how am I gonna ask from people to be careful with nature if they have to work 3 jobs to make ends meet? And then some of these people still live in an abandoned school bus, having jobs, having children at school, and they still can't afford proper housing.
And do you report that to government, things like that?
No, luckily there's other foundations that deal with that.
Okay.
These people are not completely left out in the cold. Like I said, everybody has his own talent, and you choose your problem where you try to deal with. But it's something that gives me personal trouble to see that, and knowing that that's an underlying big problem in our society.
I want to ask, how healthy is St. Martin's coral reefs, and what are the main threats?
The coral reefs are in bad shape.
Bad shape.
They're in bad shape. There are some things that unfortunately there's not much that we can do. Part of the problem is the global heating. Believing it or not, it's happening. The ocean is warmer. And everybody that grew up here knows that the water, when you go out for a swim, is warmer now than it used to be.
Yeah, that's true.
And those couple of degrees more is something that coral deals very badly with. The coral is a very sensitive animal. It's an animal, coral, it's not a plant. Because it's standing on a spot. A lot of people mistake it for an ocean plant life, but it's actually colony animal life. And they deal very badly with an increase in temperature. Then there is, with all the development we got, there is a lot of silt leaking into the base, which is covering all that coral. Seagrass, because of that, of pollution, also is in bad shape. So the whole balance in our base is going haywire. Part of it's like with silt ending up in the base, and there is something we can do something with better infrastructure that can be stopped. Think more careful about how we do civil works close to the coast, etc., etc. The global heating, unfortunately, that's the big industrialized countries that have to work on that and change their ways. In that sense, we are a victim of of the industrialized nations, and that's not just Sint Maarten, that's all island nations. And coral is also very, very important. It's not just beautiful for divers as a touristic spot. Coral is where the fish lives and spawns and breeds. Are you a fisherman by any chance, or you have?
I was just going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you, how do you collaborate with local fishermen for sustainable marine use?
We just started a new project to specifically work with the local fishermen, because there's very few of them left to start with. And for example, like I said, we have a marine park. It's right out there in front. And the marine park, fishing is not allowed. It needs protection, but having said that, with the local fishermen, we're going to work that differently. They're going to be able to fish there. Okay. Because we want to work with them, and because we also need them. A fisherman is just like a sheep herder. A fisherman, when he does it in a sustainable way, is very beneficial in the fishing grounds. And the parts we used to have nicherijen here, who were just reaping. After they left, there was not much left in the waters around us. But the fishermen, as we have them here traditionally, and if they, with proper education, need to, like for example, conchs, don't get them when they're small, don't get them in the spawning season, etc. Same thing for lobster. Let's stick to a couple of rules, and those fishermen can fish everywhere with our support. And right now we are in a program with them to set it all up, to deal with them. There is actually even some money available through a grant that we can help them out with some stuff. And that boils down again back to the thing, nature is important. Nature is vital. Nature is scarce on the island nowadays. But the island is too small to grab a piece and say this is now only for nature and nobody can get in. It has to be shared, but in a sensible way, in a way that it's still there 100 years from now, 200 years from now.
What do you want to do with the traffic situation? Any advice or any viewpoint of where you want to take that? Because I mean, if I have to go to Marigot, it takes me like 2 to 3 hours to get there.
I know.
And people are not happy having to go in a traffic jams. I mean, almost every day if they're going to work, etc. So, what are your views on what can happen in terms of what we can do to minimize this traffic situation?
Unfortunately, probably some unpopular measures will eventually have to be taken, like limiting the amount of cars one family can have, like forcing sharing cars, a better system for public transportation.
Oh yeah,
definitely. With fixed schedule, like for example, the Middle Region. I think you see 2 buses in a whole day there. Yeah. So that there has to be a more.
Everybody goes to St. Peter's, Simpson Bay.
Yeah.
Those are the areas that everybody goes. All the bus drivers.
If you're an elder person, you have to go to the hospital. You cannot take a bus to get to the hospital. So the public transport system has to be reviewed and looked at a different way, much more from a service standpoint.
Hmm. Yeah, but it's something that we're gonna have to look into, Binkie, because it cannot continue this way.
No,
I remember a couple of years ago, I heard in an interview where the late Claude Watty was speaking, and he said if we don't address the traffic situation, it's going to be a problem in the future. And he was correct, because it ended up to be a problem.
Yeah.
You understand? And it's going further and further and further. And nothing is happening in terms of what we're going to do to be able to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Because people are tired of being in traffic so long.
I'm in the extremely fortunate situation that I'm retired now. So my time is more flexible, and on account of that, I can decide, okay, I got it this week. I have to be in Marigot, I have to be in Simpson Bay 2 times. I can all plan that and in one day. So, okay, the Thursday is going to be my traffic day. Set my mind to it. But indeed, if you've got to go to work, you got children at school that you got to pick up or bring away, etc., you don't have that. You don't have that choice. You're forced to be in that traffic, and it's terrible. So,
That is bad.
Simpson Bay has become an area to avoid.
Of course. Nobody wants to go there unless it's the evening.
Yeah, but
You get better situation because people go there, let's to the restaurants, etc. But in the afternoon time, doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's a terrible situation when it comes to traffic,
yeah,
and everybody wants something to be done about it because it is hampering people every day. You know, so I think I don't know if the Nature Foundation will be able to, let's say, to do something.
no,
Make
this
some
is,
kind of
I don't know. That's the traffic.
advice
Traffic is so
in terms of that situation.
traffic is unfortunately traffic is completely out of our scope of work.
Okay.
Traffic is strictly infrastructure. It's an infrastructure problem, and that's has nothing to do with nature. We have no expertise there. We can have like personal opinions on things. Years ago, I was in Bogota, Colombia, and if you ever been to that city, they have a really bad traffic situation. And they invented a system that they called it, if I'm not mistaken now, Placa Pico or something. What it did during rush hours, they were depending on your license plate number. There were like 3 or 4 days in the week that you were not allowed to use your car during rush hour. From like 6 in the morning till 11 in the morning, and in the afternoon again. In between, you could take your car and go do some shopping. And that was on different days. So one day you could drive, the other day I could drive, and then the days you could not.
So it depends on your car number.
On your car number. And then, but they have a public transportation system. These other days you could either, for example, call a co-worker, okay, today I cannot drive, can you come pick me up, can we drive together? Or you take the bus. It forces you to organize yourself differently. And that's,
Or you take a gypsy.
yeah, but then the gypsy is not public transport. They will fall under that system that today they cannot drive and the other day they can. And actually in Colombia those days, when I saw that, even the taxis were not exempt. Taxis also had days that they could not drive, just depending on the license plate number.
The taxis were also involved.
Taxis were also
They
involved.
would not be able to drive on certain days.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it worked. It eased up traffic, and people managed.
How did people?
They did not.
How people took it?
People did not particularly like it, and I'm not sure if it still exists. Actually, I'm out of
I know
touch.
people wouldn't like that.
They didn't particularly like
Said,
it, but
man, it's going to be difficult.
but people did adapt because they simply didn't have the choice anymore. And we have to be honest. We are all comfort creatures. We love our comfort. If you got 3 people in the home, all 3 want their own car because you want to be able to get out when you want and where you want. They're not going to say, hey, you have to go to food center today, can I come with you? No.
I have somebody just came on. They said it's called Pico y Placa.
That was it. Yes, thank you.
The lady just said Pico y Placa.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, it's
I would like to find out why this Pico y Placa does. I mean, if we can get it to government and ask government to look into something like that.
An adaptation from that.
And if it works, because I know people are gonna, in the beginning, they're not gonna go for it. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves.
And I know in Bogota, the police had busy days, especially when that started, because they did have to check and stop a lot of people who thought, they're not going to catch me. Well, they did.
The policemen were always there checking.
Yeah. and it was strictly with hours. I remember.
How they will know which car number has to be?
There was a system to that, and that was published in the newspapers, and eventually it was a rotating system, so everybody knew up ahead for next week Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday I cannot drive. That rotated with the regular system.
Okay. I want to go to something extremely important to everybody, and that is the garbage.
Yeah.
Garbage is something everybody is speaking about. Every single day I'm hearing about it. I even went to the Netherlands and I spoke to some people. A cousin of mine introduced me to some people that worked with the garbage. And they explained me how we can get the garbage fixed, how we can get it addressed, etc. And one of the things they were saying, and that's the number one thing, and that's something that I didn't say anything about as yet. But what is important is education. Educating people about what you're going to do, because without educating people are not going to understand. Like I just got an education pertaining to mangroves, something I didn't know before, which you just told me about. I thought mangrove was something that we should just cut down. But you're telling me mangrove, no, they're good for this and this reason. So I believe that education, not just education to just the people, but especially our young people, the youth that are coming up, because they're going to be our next generation. And they have to learn to live with whatever laws we put in place. So I think education is extremely important, even in terms of our garbage situation. Give me an idea on that. Give me what you think about it.
With Nature Foundation, initially, many years ago, we were mainly concerned with managing the marine park, and we did a lot of other marine work. We were checking on the dolphins, on the corals and everything. Slowly but surely, we saw that you only need to open your eyes, all the garbage that's lying around. So we started doing educational work also, and right now we reached the point that at about 1/3 of our work now, all the time we spent and the money we spent is spent on education now. And that's various objects.
Educated who?
School children.
Also, you go into the schools?
We go out to the schools. We take children out also on field trips.
Okay.
We spend a lot of time on that, and then we on various subjects. Nature in general. We teach them about birds. Bird is one of the. I'm extra enthusiastic about, but a lot of people that know me know I'm crazy about birds, and I'm the local bird expert.
You love birds?
Yeah, I love birds. And birds are quite important for nature, for the whole balance of nature also. But also we teach the children indeed about pollution, about garbage, about not throwing stuff away, about trying to avoid using plastic, or if you cannot get away from plastic these days, it's impossible. The whole, literally the entire world economy is based on plastics at the moment. But you can reduce and you can reuse. You don't have to throw everything away immediately.
But do you think that it's touching the children, or the children are getting what you're trying to explain to them with regards to the garbage? Because you have to look at recycling as well.
Yeah.
But how do you look at
children get it?
Trying to get recycling in St. Martin?
For example, we also do, and it's a little thing. Mind you, we have a very small foundation. We got only 3 core staff members.
Okay.
And
just yourself and 2 others?
I'm not even a staff member. I'm the board is voluntary.
Oh, voluntary.
The board doesn't get a cent out of it. We do that for love of the island. There's nothing, not even an expense account or anything. So we got 3 core staff, and the other staff is depending on grants, most of it from the European Union out to the USA for certain projects. Education being one of those. And luckily worldwide, there's a big belief in education, nature, so there's always grants to be found to continue those projects. I kind of lost my train of thought here now explaining that.
Okay, we're going back to garbage.
Yeah, garbage.
We talk about garbage and the fact that you go to the schools and teach them about the garbage situation. But what about recycling? Because I think I mentioned that.
Yeah, for example, indeed, we teach children also how you can use discarded plastic for other projects. Last week, we were having a whole week about birds fests. So we taught children how to make bird feeders from plastic bottles. I mean, and now you're not going to save the world making a handful of bird feeders from plastic bottles, but it's an idea you instill in the children's mind. That it's not something that has to go immediately in the garbage can. That you can give it another life. You can make indeed a bird feeder. There's other stuff you can make from it. And throughout time, we do all kinds of projects like that with children. Mm. And we try to instill.
When you say children, the elementary school or secondary school?
Both.
Both elementary and secondary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's something that never stops because it's. If I may give an example, years ago, I went out myself with a class of children to the salt pond to show them the birds, to talk about the birds. And I had drinks with me for the children, little bottles of cold water. And it's time for a drink. And before I handed that out, I showed the children all the garbage on the ground and asked them, what do you think about that? They said, no, teacher, that's not good. So I said, if I give you a bottle of water, you're gonna, no, we're gonna throw it in the garbage can. Okay, so I pass out the water, and the first little boy around you just drops us where he's standing without thinking. It's a habit.
It's embedded in it.
It's a habit.
Sure, it's embedded.
Because
everybody is telling me that St. Martin is dirty, and we have tourists. I mean, of course, the locals that live here, the residents, but they're telling me, well, we have visitors coming here to our shores, and the place is dirty. And all over you go, we have the garbage. I mean, in every community, and that is something we have to work on. You just said the little boy.
Yeah.
You showed him exactly what is what. He said there's no problem, and he went on to drink his water, but he still threw it on the ground.
Yeah.
So my question to that: did he learn from what you said?
Yeah, because then of course you don't give him you don't give him a clack or anything. You tell the boy, yes, you see what you do now, and then they actually by just pointing them that he did it without thinking, already turns the switch.
Turn the switch.
Yeah.
You ever went to the Milton Peters College?
Yes.
Yeah, I went there a couple of times, and the drainages is full of garbage.
Yeah.
Full of garbage.
Go to
my point is, teachers are there, a whole lot of people are there, administrators, etc. But nobody is looking into that situation.
People seem to give up too easy.
Give up and making sure just cleaning.
It's the kind of behavior you gotta continuously point people that don't do it. There's one person, maybe that's somebody you should get in your program, Claude Jaffa. And he started the program with recycling bins at a number of our schools already, and that's a very successful program. He's doing a really absolute fantastic job with that, teaching the children, and around those schools where we got this project, there's a lot less garbage around the schools already. It can be done.
Yeah, but go to every school.
Yeah.
You want to see the amount of garbage.
Go to
all of the schools.
Go to Emilio Wilson Park after the weekend.
Full of garbage.
Full of garbage, and it's a park that's there. Emilio Wilson left it for us for our enjoyment.
Exactly.
To have a park, to go for a picnic, to do your little family party, to go with your children, and then as thank we leave heaps of garbage behind, and there is garbage cans.
You know, one of the things somebody was telling me, and I think they're going to do it, and I'm going to make sure that they get it done, is to make sure that we purchase bins, garbage bins, and get them all around the place. They were talking about the different bus halters.
For example,
like all those bus halters have garbage bins there because people sit there waiting on the bus, and if they're drinking something, they can always put it in the garbage bin. But if you don't have a garbage bin, you're going to throw it on the ground. And that is what's happening all the time. So he's saying, hey, Jeffrey, I'm going to make sure that there's garbage bin in areas that they have to be in so that we can avoid people throwing the whatever they're drinking, whether it's water or juice or whatever it is, throwing it on the ground. We want to avoid that.
The only thing the Minister of Rome has to participate in that, because they have to be in the garbage contract that they're going to be emptied on a regular basis.
That the
because we can,
is going to be empty.
You and me can go to Ace now, buy a garbage can and put it somewhere, and people are going to throw garbage in it, but somebody's got to empty it also in time.
No, but you have to deal with government. But
yeah, exactly. That's what I say. They have
to pick up those garbage, throw them away, and put it back down so you can have them again.
No,
we can't do it. We don't have the means. We don't have the truck to get them.
Correct.
Thrown away.
Yeah.
I have Orly Boyrad, a very close friend of mine. She said it's a great idea what you just said, because she said Claude Javois, what you just met, the gentleman you just mentioned, is doing an amazing job.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you say amazing, when she says amazing, I want to know where he's at. Where he goes to. Is he doing it with the people of St. Martin? Is he doing it with schools?
With schools.
Or he doing it with the community?
No, he's doing it directly with schools. You can easily find them
so you
on Facebook.
You are doing the same thing with schools as well?
Yeah, and there was another organization called EPIC, Environmental Protection in the Caribbean. There is a massive effort going on to try to turn the tide, but it does take time. It's not something that you can, okay, today we stop and that's it. No, it's education is an ongoing project.
The fact is we have to continue doing it.
Absolutely.
Until everybody gets it.
Yep.
For example, recycling. I think recycling is an extremely important thing.
Yeah.
Because you'll be able to put different plastic by plastic, glass by glass. Let's say, what do you call those things? Anyway. Whatever they have, you put all of them by themselves.
Yeah.
And if the school children can understand that and start working in that area, then we can have a better St. Martin. Because at the end of the day, like I'm telling you, we're not going to be here all the time. Those children, they're extremely important, because when they come to the point where they're adults, they're already going to know exactly how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
And that's why with the schools, I agree with you. We have to continue just going into the schools and making sure that they understand how garbage goes and how garbage has to be disposed.
Yeah. No, but luckily, and I'm so happy with that, there is quite a big group now also of young St. Martin people that are very much into it and who are putting time in it and who are organizing things, who finish their studies and are getting into government positions left and right, and are using their knowledge and their willingness to help things out also.
I'm going to ask you, what initiatives, I know you're not government, but what initiatives are in place to tackle the ever-growing landfill in the middle of our capital?
That thing is completely in the hands of the National Recovery Bureau, NRPB, together with the World Bank, and they are not very open about that. Not a lot of news comes out on what that. So none of us, not Nature Foundation.
Know what they're doing?
No, not really.
Okay.
Nobody knows. I barely ever.
But why can't the people of St. Martin know what they're doing?
Yeah,
I just don't understand.
I would like to know also.
But the people would like to know as well.
Of course.
Because it's affecting the people.
Yeah.
One of the things I always say, and there's a lot of people are saying the same thing, that could be one of the reasons why people have health problems.
It's definitely
a possibility.
It's definitely one of the reasons.
Why not speak to the people of St. Martin? They said, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's my question.
No doubt it's a very complicated problem, because there's that heap of garbage is so big. That's incredible. It's been mismanaged for so long. To solve that, I'm sure it's not going to be easy. But at least, indeed, I agree with you. And then people are probably asking, let us know. Is it going to take another 2 years? Is it going to take another 10 years?
I'll tell you something. Nothing is easy, but you have to make a start.
Yes.
If you don't make a start,
Exactly.
it doesn't make any sense.
Every journey starts with the first step.
I had somebody in the interview with me about 3 to 4 interviews ago, and he's living in Brooklyn. He said something to me like this. He said, Jeffrey, some places in the States, they had the same problem as St. Martin has. That's why it's important not to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes we like to reinvent the wheel, but all we have to do is see how things is done elsewhere,
exactly,
and do exactly the same thing.
Copy paste a successful program.
Copy paste. This particular person said, in that particular state, they had the same problem that we had, and very high. The garbage was very high. He said, what they do, they keep testing the ground, and eventually they threw away all of the garbage, and the ground area, they were able to build a community. A community they were able to build in the area where the garbage was. But they got rid of all of the garbage. My point is, we have to know exactly how are we going to get rid of the garbage. That's something we have to look at.
One of the things we did, of course, instead of when I came to the islands, it started. I was there already, but at least it was flat. Now we managed to make a mountain of it.
When you came, it was flat.
It was still flat.
Of course.
The ball field was just built there.
Was the Link Ballpark?
The Little League.
Oh, Little League Ballpark.
Yeah.
That was in the 80s, I think.
That was in the 80s, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. But in the Netherlands also there is old landfills that are either parks now, where people can go for their recreation, or indeed communities have been built on it and it's safe. Because a well-managed landfill can be safely capped off and be reused for something else completely. But we have a mountain now, so we got to think probably different about that, how to accomplish that. But
but there is a way.
There are ways, absolutely.
Solution.
Yeah.
There is something that you can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing in Simon. That's why I have a problem with people telling me, if I tell them something, they're always telling you how it can't happen. If you're telling me how it can't happen, then I don't need you. I need somebody to tell me how it can happen. Because that's what I want to do. I want to solve the problem.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear, but Jeffrey, this can't happen and that can't happen. No. I want to hear what we're going to do, whether we're going to put our minds together to be able to make it happen. I want to ask a question, and that will be very important. I want to go to hurricanes. I don't know how the Nature Foundation is involved with hurricanes, because hurricanes is an extremely important factor here on this in this island, all over the Caribbean, where hurricane belts are, where they passes, and St. Martin is one of them. Is Nature Foundation involved with them, and what do they do in order for them to be able to help assist St. Martin with regards to the hurricanes?
We, like I said, with the core staff of 3 and a few other people, there's not so much we can do. But but after every hurricane we've had so far, we've always been instrumental in just helping out with the cleanup. We basically
Three of you.
Yeah, and whoever else is there at that particular moment. We do 2 things after a hurricane. We take an inventory of what happened to nature, and if there's something seriously wrong on the coral reefs and our forests, our trees on the island. But then we, just like everybody else does on the island after a storm, we roll up our sleeves and we start helping with the cleanup. And as Nature Foundation, we try to help in spots that otherwise get maybe neglected, or we try to do our fair share.
Yeah, but it's not
That's all you can
it's
do.
not
But,
so big because you just got 3 people.
yeah,
And do you have an administration
that's one of
in terms
the
of
yeah,
in terms of people that get paid
yeah.
to do? Oh, you have people that get paid,
Yeah.
and what do? They just administrate what's happening.
Oh, you mean in that sense? No, we got
No, I mean, if you have an office or something.
we have a ranger that really goes out in the marine park. There's maintenance to be done. There's buoys there where a ship can tie on to if they want to go diving or anything. So that needs regular maintenance. There's maintenance to be done left and right in nature. There's monitoring to be done of nature. We do occasional water testing also for the government. So our rangers go out and do the water testing. There is biggest part of the administrative work is actually trying to get money in. Writing to funding organizations all over the world to get some money towards St. Martin. There is altogether it's an amazing amount of work that these few people get done. We do scientific work, study our nature, see that like with the coral. There is just ongoing for many years now. We do studies, see what we can. There is ways to replant coral. It's complicated, it's difficult. We are experimenting with that. We constantly monitoring it also. If things, for example, as you talked about cruise ships earlier, and this is not something that's been proven yet, but there is also a virus going through the Caribbean with the coral. Apart from the bleaching, there's a viral disease attacking coral. The thinking is that this is being spread by the cruise ships under the hull. Something that's still being looked at, if that's true, and if there's something that can be done with these ships, with a treatment, because that, on account of it being a virus, there is actually a treatment, which you have to go with a diver underwater. But it's a thick paste. You got to paste that onto the coral.
And what that does?
Sorry?
What does that do?
Since it's a virus and it's an antiviral treatment that you're giving them, but it's
health.
It helps, yeah.
Health, yeah.
Because if they completely die off between bleaching and that viral disease, then we're left with nothing. And then you can send a fisherman to another job also. The corals are gone.
Hills. We didn't discuss that.
Yeah.
But we see a lot of hills where they have homes, etc., and they have erosions. You know, you have rainfall, etc. What's your take on that? What would you handle that?
It's you got to be very, very careful with what you do on a hillside. And what we see here sometimes that people manage to get a building permit to do some development on the hillside. They clean. They go in with big machines. They dig, they take away all the plants and everything, and then you see nothing is happening for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you got all that erosion coming down. There should be, at least if there's a good enough reason to give a building permit on the hillside, there should be a limited amount of time that it can be built, and then with proper drainage. We saw last year with the heavy rains what happened in Simpson Bay, with all the water coming on the road, and you creating big problems. Because there was also uncontrolled hillside construction without proper facilities for the runoff water. On St. Martin we've built many homes and neighborhoods on natural gullies and natural water outlets, and once you block that, the water has to go somewhere. And we got to look at that better, smarter.
So I'm going to the sewage area. What are you doing about that? Because a lot of areas, people send me pictures with sewage running in front of their home all over the places and stuff like that. What do you do with that situation?
Well, as Nature Foundation, we don't do anything with that. There's nothing we can do.
Nothing?
No. We from time to time, if there's somewhat, we can measure a little bit from time to time, and and alert, in this case, Romy again. But there is things that can be done and that need to be done. One thing, because we rely on septic pits on the island, there is still only very limited structure for sewage lines. The Dutch Quarter, as a part of Dutch Quarter, is connected, but there's not many homes are actually connected to the sewage treatment plant. But septic systems need to be used different than people do. There is here on St. Martin, there is an addiction to bleach water, Clorox. And if there's one thing you can do to mess up the operation of your septic pit is use too much bleach. Because a good septic tank is based on bacterial working. You flush your toilet and everything goes in your septic. And then I remember in the old days people say if you build a septic, throw in a dead chicken in there to start it off, because that creates a lot of bacteria. And the septic will take care of itself year after year after year. The bacterial working will decompose everything you flush in there, and it's fine. The water can leach out. But now what we do in St. Martin, we use all that bleach water, and the septic pit is completely dead, and nothing gets decomposed in there, and it fills up, starts overflowing. Then you got to call for a pump truck every 2 months or every month. Or what happens also on a building permit for 2 houses, they start building extra apartments, and instead of 2 houses at the end of the same septic pits, there's more houses, more apartments connected, doesn't have the capacity, it starts overflowing. Pumping it is expensive, people don't take their responsibility. Put a pump at night with a little hose out on the road. Or worse, it's in part it's personal responsibility, but the other part it's a huge job for the government. We are so populated on the island now, there needs to be a complete sewage system to connect people. Otherwise, years ago we did, because St. Martin still have some water sources left and right, and St. Peter's there's water sources and Sounders. Every single one of them is polluted. You cannot use any of that water anymore. And that's because of the massive amount of sewage leaching into the ground. There were chic supermarkets used to be on that corner by St. Peter's. There was a serious water pot still, and there still is up to today, and there's plenty of water still there. It's a huge aquifer. But it's not good for consumption anymore.
Okay. But what about wells? Someone was telling me there's a lot of wells in different areas.
Yeah, but
we had a lot of them years ago, but we don't know how they've been kept now. Whether they're dirty,
they're all dirty,
clean, etc. But would you think that is something that we would be able to use?
Not anymore.
Wells?
We
can't clean them?
You could put a whole treatment plant by your well, and then you can use it. But that's an expensive investment, because it's not just putting a filter. It's not a.
Of course, but a person can do that.
A person can do that
if is living there.
If you're lucky enough to still have a well on your properties, yes. But nowadays you got to make sure you put a full treatment thing on there.
What about land areas to be able to start agriculture? You ever thought about doing something in that area? Because agriculture is something everybody's talking about now.
Yeah.
Agriculture. I remember back in the days when they said, if we put agriculture, it's going to be more expensive for us, because whatever we're buying outside of St. Martin is cheaper than what we would pay for here if we did agriculture here in St. Martin. What is your take on that?
I think we should still do it, but
still do the agriculture.
Yeah,
but where?
There is.
We do it in the hills.
There's new techniques these days that didn't exist in the past. You got the aquaponics culture, etc. You can go vertically.
Sure.
There's systems for that. It's not cheap to start with, for sure not.
Okay.
But if Irma taught us one thing, is that we are vulnerable for food, and if only for a few weeks we can at least take care of ourselves for a little bit. And also, last week a report came out about the health situation on the island with diabetes and overweight and everything. Everything we can grow here at home is fresher and better and healthier than everything you can ship in with the container that takes 2 to 3 weeks maybe sometimes to get here. What lettuce that we buy here comes from California, that doesn't come here overnight.
That is true. Cars. Old cars all over the road that nobody's using.
Yeah.
Old cars. Well, is that something that the Nature Foundation would involve themselves with in terms of getting those cars off the road?
No.
Those old cars.
No, that's
I remember a time the government did it.
yeah.
There was a time they did it.
Yeah.
Maybe a year or two ago. They were putting, like, let's say for example, a number on the cars, and then they would come in, they would give you some time, and then they will go and take the cars and dump them. I don't know exactly where they were dumping them, whether it's
the
garbage.
They were going on Pond Island indeed,
On Pond Island.
There is a compactor. There is a compactor there.
Okay.
Still is actually.
Okay.
One of the problems in that respect for all that the cars and all trucks, anything metal, is the world economy, the world market at the moment for scrap metal is bad. There's not a lot of value for scrap metal right now. On account there is no.
But back in those days, people would buy scrap metal.
Yeah.
A lot of countries.
Yeah.
Was purchasing it.
A lot of it will go to Suriname, for example, from
Exactly.
here. Yeah. But the rest value is not much at the moment, and shipping has become more expensive. So there is there's long stretches of time that we have to pile it up here before there is enough to make a shipment economically valuable to take it off and to bring it somewhere that pays for at least the shipping cost.
Yep, but that is something that, Binkie, we're almost out of time, but I want to just say one or two things. I'm seeing here a cleanup campaign. And when I say a cleanup campaign, I'm not talking about just the Nature Foundation. I'm talking about everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody should get involved. And we have to start to teach people, you have to keep your area clean.
Yeah.
If you live in Dutch Quarter, keep Dutch Quarter clean. If you live in Phillipsburg, keep Phillipsburg clean. And that's something we have to talk about, because I understand about the schools, making sure we educate the school children, whether it's the secondary schools or the elementary schools, etc. It's fine. But you know who is doing it too? Our adults.
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing. So my point is, we're gonna have to also reach to a point where we teach the people, no, you can't do that anymore. And a lot of people was telling me, give them a hefty fine. If you understand what I mean. Give those people a hefty fine so that when they get the fine, they will stop doing it. Stop doing it.
Yeah.
So that's very important. I go back to say that this place is very dirty, and we have to do something about it, and not just only talk about it, because I think the time for talking is over.
No,
That's the reason why you're here, Binkie. That time for talking is over. We're here talking, but after this, we got to start doing.
We've over the years we've done neighborhood cleanups, and also like Epic has been involved in that. And I must say, quite a few of our parliamentarians were involved in that. They would show up and vitalize their neighborhoods where they lived. For example, Angelique Romoux was very active in that for quite a while also. Miss Westcott has been very active with that. She will always be there when it's in her neighborhood, and even if it's not her neighborhood. Yeah. So there are efforts, but it's ongoing.
But Binkie, we don't want those two. We want everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
Want everybody involved, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we have this interview so that people will know, hey, you gotta be able to clean your area. You gotta be able to clean your community because it's important.
Now, the
It's
only thing-
important. If we want to have a better St. Martin, we gotta keep it clean.
You talked
That's
about
important.
you just talk about fines. I'm not a big fan of fines.
Why not?
Number one, the majority of our population is already poor enough. If you want to slap a fine on them for littering, you even give them more trouble. As an example, what I did with my own son when he was young, one day we're driving, and he threw a candy wrapper out of the car window. So I pulled over the side of the road. I give him a plastic bag that I had in the car, and I made him clean up 50 meters of the roadside. That gave him the message. He never did that again.
That was action.
Yeah. So instead of finding people, I would say, okay, if you see somebody serious littering, force them to clean up something.
Action.
That will work.
I like that. Action. Action, because without action,
And not just make them do it like a chain gang. No, organize something and help them actually doing it also, because then they learn even more from it.
I think what you're saying is extremely important. And again, I'm saying, let us get everybody involved, not just Epic or Nature Foundation. Or let's get everybody involved.
Exactly. Just this morning
Because
early.
if everybody gets involved, we're gonna get the island clean. We're gonna get it clean.
Early this morning, I was talking on the phone to Nicole the Weaver, and she said it again. She said, "It takes a village to keep a village going."
It takes a village. It takes a village.
And there's no getting around that.
That's a fact. Before we leave, it's time now. We have come to the end of our program, and I want to thank you. You did a tremendous job. I came with a lot of papers, lot of paper, lot of questions. But I was not able to even ask, not even half of them. And you have to be able to know exactly what to ask. Because there's certain things, like you said, certain things we can't do. So, what sense, I'm going to ask you a question where it's the responsibility of, let's say, Vromi. Doesn't make any sense. Because I'm going to the wrong person. You see, I have to go to the people who's going to be able to make the difference. Which is Vromi. So let's go straight to Vromi. And say, Vromi, this is what we need. This is how we want to do it, etc. And see what they're going to do in terms of getting it done. And there's where we have to be.
I mean, we got to be very honest with each other also here on St. Martin. It's a small island, and face it, everybody is related. Everybody's family somewhere at some.
You're related to.
point. Well, I'm me being imported.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
Binkie, you are related. 26 years here.
Yeah,
you're related too.
Absolutely, no, definitely. But that's in a sense is also part of the problem. If I'm the minister and I see you are
my cousin,
your cousin, and your septic is flowing over the road,
I'm not going to say anything.
Maybe I'm going to call you. Hey, Jeffrey, ease down on that thing, please. I'm not going to make a big stink for you. Yeah. And that we are, in that sense, we are too gentle for each other, too friendly with each other. We have to be honest enough to stop each other from doing bad things.
So you think that is one of the reasons that's why we're not getting certain things done?
It's part of the reason, part of it. We love each other too much.
Then we have to make the change. Like Michael Jackson say, change starts with who?
We like to say that it's all corruption. It's not. There is corruption. Part of the things is corruption, but most of it is too much covering things with a blanket of love.
A blanket of love. I love that. I have to write that down. A blanket of love. Wow, beautiful. I'm going to tell everybody that.
And that's why we got
a blanket of love for you.
And that's why we got to be more honest, because actually loving each other is preventing each other from doing stupid things.
Yeah, Binkie, we have come to the end of our live stream. And I want to ask you to give a your closing remarks about the program, and what do you think, and where do you think we should go from here?
We, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to express myself about these subjects. As a closing remark, it's actually easy. Compassion. Be it nature, be it poverty, be it, everything boils down to compassion with each other. Think of your neighbor. Think of your friends. Think also, if you don't like people, be compassionate. Somebody that I know very well once told me, it's a very small community. Not everybody can be your friend, but you cannot afford to have enemies here. Be compassionate with each other. Think of each other with anything you do.
Have empathy.
Yeah, empathy. Exactly. And that's exactly also the path where we have to go. We have to be more empathic with each other.
I agree. Thank you so much, Binkie. You were extremely great. We didn't get to ask all the questions, but we're going to have a second interview, that's for sure.
With pleasure.
Yeah, we're going to have a second one where we're going to be able to ask much more questions and stuff, because up to today, people was asking me, ask him that, ask him this question, ask him that question. I wasn't able to ask all the questions. And some of the questions that has nothing to do with you, I just, let them stay out. Again, thank you very, very much. You did a tremendous job in answering your questions and stuff like that. And we are going to be on Wednesday again at 1 o'clock with a lady by the name of Kimberly Brown. She is the person that is the director, actually, of the, what you call those people that lives in different homes, the young people?
Foster program.
She is the director of the foster home, or the course of guardianship.
Such an important job on the island.
Course of guardianship. Yeah. We're going to be speaking to her with regards to that. And we're asking all of you to come out and just listen. Listen and give your ideas of how you think we should handle this. Because even with this foster care, we had a lady in Dutch Quarter. She died now. I forgot her name. She had a foster care home.
Yeah.
And then you had Benjamin.
That's more than people realize. Then up in the hills in Sounders also.
But that area where they are have to be looked at very carefully.
Yeah.
Because it's very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So Sally, Benjamin, and Debbie. Debbie was a lady from ICANN. Yeah, she was from ICANN, and those folks did a lot for young people that didn't have nowhere to go.
Yeah, and those
had to end up there.
And I know from personal experience also, I've been in several of these homes.
Okay. That's here in St. Martin, or?
Yeah, no, here in St. Martin. I've had to look with companies that I worked for that we were able to donate to these foster homes. So I've been there, I've seen it, and I've seen the odds these foster mothers have to fight also to get food on the table and to get blankets on the beds. And,
we're gonna have her on, Kimberly on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So we asking all of you to tune in and give your opinion, etc. You know from now that she's coming on, so you can start putting certain things together of what you think you want to ask her on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So again, thank you very much for being on, and God bless all of you, and see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.